Every single morning, before you remember your name, before you remember where you live, before the first worry or the first plan, you know one thing. Not what day it is, not where you are, not who you are supposed to be. The very first thing you know is simply this: I exist. That feeling I am comes before every other thought, before language, before memory, before identity. Ramana Maharshi noticed this, and he spent his entire life pointing to what that means. He did not teach a religion. He did not ask for disciples. He asked one question, and he said this question, if followed to its source, ends all suffering, not reduces it, ends it. This is that question. There was a young man in a small town in Tamil Nadu, India, in the year 1896. His name was Venkataraman. He was 16 years old. He had no spiritual practice. He had not read the Upanishads. He was sitting one afternoon in the upstairs room of his uncle's house when, without any warning, something happened. A violent, overwhelming fear of death seized him. He later described it himself. He said, "There was nothing wrong with my health that day. I had no illness. But suddenly, violently, I felt I am going to die." And instead of calling for help, instead of running to his uncle or his brother, this 16-year-old boy made a decision that would make him one of the most revered sages of the 20th century. He decided to solve the problem himself, right there, right then. He lay down on the floor and held himself completely still, as though he were a corpse. He imagined the body going cold. He imagined it being carried to the cremation ground. He imagined it turning to ash. And then he asked, "What dies?" The body dies, that is clear. The body will become ash. But is there anything here that is not the body? Is there something that is watching this body, aware of this body, aware even of this fear, that is not itself afraid? He turned his attention inward, not with thought, not with reasoning, with pure attention. He traced the sense of I, the feeling I exist. I am back toward its source. And what he found changed him permanently. The awareness that was watching could not be found as an object. It was not inside the body. It was not behind the eyes. It was not in the head. It was the very fabric of consciousness itself. It had no location, no boundary, no beginning, and no end. In that room, in a few minutes, the boy Venkataraman disappeared. What remained was what he would later call the self. 6 weeks later, he walked out of that house, left everything behind, and walked to the sacred mountain Arunachala. He never left. He spent the next 54 years sitting in silence and answering questions, and every answer, no matter what the question was, came back to the same point. Find out who you are. Now, the question. Most people, when they hear, "Who am I?" think it is a philosophical puzzle, something to think about, something to discuss. Ramana was very clear. That is not what he meant. He said this is not a question asked to get a verbal answer. The question is not meant to produce a thought. The question is meant to destroy the questioner. Let me explain what that means. Right now, as you hear these words, there are thoughts arising. There may be agreement, disagreement, boredom, interest. There may be the thought, "This is interesting," or "This is not what I expected." Notice something. Every single one of those thoughts carries a hidden I. I think this is interesting. I am confused. I want to understand more. Everything you experience is an I experience. The I is there in every moment. It is the most constant thing in your life, more constant than your name, your body, your relationships. And yet you have probably never once turned your attention to look directly at it. That is what Ramana is asking you to do. Not to think about yourself, not to analyze your personality or your history, but to turn attention toward the one who is doing all the thinking, the I itself, and ask, what is this? Where does this sense of I come from? When you go to deep sleep tonight, the I disappears. You do not say, I am sleeping, there is no I in that state. The I appears again the moment you wake up. So where was it? Where does it go? Where does it come from? Ramana said, trace that, not with words, with attention. Like a diver who does not stop to look at the fish on the way down, but goes straight to the ocean floor. Go to the source of the I. Now, here is what most people get wrong. The question, who am I, is not asking about your personality. It is not asking about your story, your trauma, your achievements, your beliefs. It is not asking about the body. It is not asking about the mind. Ramana taught that there are 3 wrong answers most seekers carry. The first wrong answer, I am the body. This is the most common mistake. We wake up inside a body, and we assume we are the body, but the body changes completely. Every cell, every organ, every bone, it is not the same body it was 10 years ago. If you are the body, which version are you? And when the body is under anesthesia and you feel nothing, where are you? The second wrong answer, I am the mind. This seems more subtle, more philosophical. The mind is more refined than the body. But Ramana asks, where is the mind in deep sleep? In dreamless sleep, the mind goes completely silent. You do not exist as a thinking entity, yet you wake up and you say, I slept well. Who experienced that? Not the mind. The mind was absent. Something was there that witnessed even the absence of the mind. The third wrong answer, I am my emotions, my personality, my history. This is the most personal one. We identify so deeply with what we have felt, what we have lived through, who we believe ourselves to be. But emotions rise and fall. The person who wept 10 years ago at a great loss, can you find that grief right now? It came, it went, it passed through. What remained? Ramana is pointing to what remains. He used an analogy that is perfect in its simplicity. A rope lying on the ground in the dark, a man walks by and screams. Snake! He runs. He tells everyone. Others come. Still, snake. The fear is real. The running is real. The racing heart is real. But there is no snake. There was only a rope. And the moment someone brings a lamp, the snake disappears instantly. Not gradually, not with effort. The moment the light arrives, the snake that was never there simply stops being seen. Your suffering, said Ramana, is the snake. Your ego, the false sense of being a separate self, a body-mind object in a world, is the snake. And self-inquiry is the lamp. You do not fight the snake. You do not negotiate with the snake. You do not try to make the snake more comfortable or more manageable. You bring the light, and the snake was never there. This is where we begin. The practice for this week, and I want you to actually try this, not just hear, it is simple. At some point today, when you notice you are caught in a thought, a worry, a plan, an emotion, stop for 10 seconds. Do not try to change the thought. Do not try to push it away. Ask one thing only. To whom is this thought arising? The answer will be, to me. Then ask, who am I? Do not answer with words. Do not say, I am a teacher, a student, a parent, a seeker. Let the question stand without a verbal answer. Let your attention turn inward, toward the one who is asking. What do you find? That is where we are going in this series. This is not about becoming enlightened someday. This is not about a future state you have to work toward for years. Ramana was very clear. What you are looking for is already present. The peace you want is already here. The only thing covering it is the habit of looking outward, looking at objects, looking at circumstances, instead of turning the light of attention inward toward the one who is looking. The self is not something you will find. It is what you already are. You only need to stop being everything else long enough to notice it. In the next video, Ramana asks a question that will make you doubt something you have never doubted before. Not your beliefs, not your past, your mind itself. Not what it thinks, what it actually is. And his answer, I promise you, is the most disorienting and liberating thing you will hear this year. If this series found you, it was not an accident. Before you leave, write one thing in the comments. When you ask yourself, "Who am I?" what is the first answer that comes? Write it below. No right or wrong, just write what comes. We will talk about it in the next video. Ready for episode 2? Just say next.